As introduced by you, my title is already on the screen, which is Why Counseling is an Indispensable Philosophical Trait. I want to trace the history of philosophy, especially in the Western society, to justify the title of this paper. And I will also bring in the aspect of African philosophy into it, because counseling did not emerge in Africa, did not come into being in Africa with the contact with the West. We had people already practicing counseling as a profession before the contact with the West. So going by the next slide, my conception of philosophy, especially when I was admitted into the University of Lagos in Nigeria, I was enthusiastic about the discipline. And after my 4 years in the university, because an undergraduate degree is always 4 years program in Nigeria, and now I felt that I would go into the world and I would be able to practice what I learned in the university. On getting outside the university, I was treated as if philosophy was not that relevant, that philosophy was an abstract discipline. So with the knowledge of philosophy that I had, where would I now apply the knowledge? So I was even really looking for how to practice what I learned in the university. So I came back again for my master and I delved into environmental ethics in order to show the practical nature of philosophy to the world. So when I now came across this particular conference, I was so happy that yes, this is an area I'd been looking for all this while. A place to show that philosophy is not an abstract discipline, because every philosopher is a child of his culture, is a child or a product of his or her environment. So why should we be treating philosophy as an abstract discipline, as a discipline that has no direct connection with our everyday life? So this particular paper is a rejection of any idea that says philosophy is an abstract discipline, because philosophical counseling is a way to show that philosophy is connected to everyday life experience. So counseling, to me, is an indispensable philosophical trait. Whether you are a Western philosopher, an African philosopher, Indian philosopher, Chinese philosopher, wherever you find yourself as a philosopher, you are directly or indirectly counseling people on how to live a better life. You want people to appreciate the value of ethics, the value of knowledge, the value of wisdom, and how those values could be used to transform their lives and as well as the society that they dwell in. So in particular, in this presentation, African philosophy can broaden understanding of philosophical counseling in this presentation, as I said earlier. So what is philosophical counseling? I read many literature, but this particular definition of philosophical counseling is more relevant to me, and it goes thus. Philosophical counseling is a collaborative and conversational activity between a trained philosopher and a client, in which the client's life problems are worked through by identifying, examining, and revising as necessary the operating beliefs. The emphasis, operating beliefs, because wherever we find ourselves, even with this, my participation in the conference today, I believe that this conference would make me to understand the notion of philosophical counseling better is a belief. So the values, and I believe that whatever I'm going to learn from this conference will be an added value in my understanding of philosophical counseling, of the whole notion of philosophical counseling. And also, philosophical counseling will also change the habits or actions of the clients. In the process, the counselor and the counselee would learn one or two things from each other. So this particular definition of philosophical counseling appeals to me the more, and that is the reason why I brought it before you, for you to understand my own perspective on philosophical counseling. Counseling or philosophical counseling is both intra and also interpersonal. What do I mean by this? There is a way you could use philosophical ideas, philosophical knowledge to counsel yourself without even going to a counselor. Because life problems, some problems in life, if I should put it that way, are perennial. Who am I? What is life? What is knowledge? What is the meaning of religion? What is the best approach to be happy in life? So there are so many questions that one could raise. Who is a man? Who is a person? Is there anything like universal in the real sense of it? Philosophical counseling is a way to broaden understanding on perennial questions that we often come across in our life. So through intrapersonal counseling, philosophy will be useful. Philosophical ideas will be useful for us to navigate our life challenges. On your own, you can just be and continue to reflect. On the basis of the knowledge of philosophy you have acquired, you can think about, oh, this problem, is there any solution? Or should I just go and commit suicide? Why should suicide be an option? So if you are well grounded in philosophy, you would always find a better answer, a solution to whatever problem you are going through. That is the essence of philosophy, or the relevance of philosophy to your life. And philosophy can counsel you internally without you going outside, because you can't be depressed if you really understand what philosophy is in itself. I, as a person, what would make me to go into depression? With my exposure to the discipline of philosophy, that would never happen to me, because in where that seems there is no way, a philosopher would always think outside the box in order to look for solution to whatever problem that comes before him or before her. So intrapersonal aspect of philosophical counseling is also relevant to us, as well as the interpersonal counseling, in the sense that some people, they do not have that power of independent counseling, power of independent thought. So they need a professional counselor like philosopher. They need a professional philosopher that could help them to understand their problems. Because if there is no problem, there will not be need for counseling. So you must have a problem and you are looking for solution. What is the essence of philosophy? Is to provide solution to problems that confront you and I, humans in general. So if you need to meet a counselor who is a professional philosopher, the person would help you to understand your problem better on the basis of your belief or beliefs, on the basis of your values, and also on the basis of the environment that you share with others. So interpersonal mode of counseling and also intra mode of counseling is, or they are both tools of philosophical counseling. In other words, you can counsel yourself and you can also seek counseling through a professional philosopher. And that takes me to the next slide, that what is even the history of counseling in philosophy. I want to begin that in the Western society, or in the Western philosophy, you can trace how counseling is a dominant approach in philosophy, going by the sophists. They move from one place to another in order to teach people on how to live a better life, an ideal life. They move from one society to another, from one person to another, to teach people, to counsel people. The same thing with Socrates. Socrates says that an unexamined life is not worth living. He was even moving from one place to another to counsel the Athenian youths. The government of the day never liked his approach, but that particular way of teaching people on how to live ethically, how to live an ideal life, is to me a way of counseling. You want people to change their mode of conduct, their mode of behavior. You want them to live a better life. And Socrates was doing this to the Athenian youth, and the government of the day discovered that the youth were now asking questions that they never asked before the intervention of Socrates. So they decided to gang up against Socrates and exterminated him, because the oppressors would never want the oppressed to have true knowledge of their situation. So Socrates helped the Athenian youth to understand themselves. The same thing with Jeremy Bentham. Bentham told us that man is being governed by two masters, pain and pleasure. And he discovered that what we live for is for pleasure. Whatever would not bring happiness to us, we should run away from it. This, to me, is a way of counseling us that pleasure is the most desirable thing we should seek. And he gave us different approaches to it, which is known as utilitarian calculus or hedonistic calculus, yes. So he told us how to achieve the highest amount of pleasure. So this is also a way to avoid suffering because of pain. You cannot be doing something that will give you undue pain and your mind will be at rest, or you would now expect to be happy. Actions like that would always lead to depression. So Jeremy Bentham helped the people of his time, and up to now, his relevance in philosophy is still in a way to guide us on how we should live a better life, a life that will be more valuable to us. Karl Marx also helped the people. He told the workers of his time that they could not continue to live a depressing life under their masters. You need to understand your situation. If you are a proletariat, there is no way you can benefit from the sweat of your labor. You now need to wage war, to challenge your oppressors. This is also a way of counseling. What I'm saying in essence is that the history of Western philosophy is replete with counseling, or should I say philosophical counseling. That is what I have come to realize, that whether you are a Western philosopher, you are an Indian philosopher, African philosopher, what you are doing indirectly or directly is to counsel people on how to live a better life, how to understand their situation, and how to get a better approach into the problems that confront them. And that takes me to the African approach to philosophical counseling. In Africa, we don't just engage in the habit of counseling without understanding the counselee or himself or herself. The counselee is someone that has come with a problem. The person needs solution to the problem confronting her or confronting him. So in the traditional Yoruba society, the Babalawo, they are like the professional philosophers today. They have their own offices and people will go to them to seek advice, to seek knowledge of the situation they are going through. So through the mode of poetry, the Babalawos, that is the African philosophical counselors, they do not just jump into a particular recommendation or a particular idea that, oh, this is what you should do in order to solve your problem, or this is the solution to the problem facing you. No, they would first of all ask the client about his families, because the Babalawo must be knowledgeable about the people around him or about his clients. They are very versatile. They don't just go into the problem and begin to provide solution. They would ask relevant questions. They would ask about the family, about what was going on in the farm in a particular time. And this kind of approach would put the client in a stable situation, in a stable manner, and it would also engender trust between the client and the counselor, the Babalawo. So the Babalawo too would also use the tool of music. They know how to use music in Yoruba language to calm their client down. So the approach, the African approach, is client-centered. It's not just about using scientific knowledge or what you would see in psychological counseling of today. They don't use that approach. They use music, they use dance and the storytelling, and even proverbs. If they discover that the problem you are going through is something that you yourself can find solution to, they would use a proverb like "Alatishe, Loma tishe are." That is, you are the one going through this problem. You are the one to solve the problem yourself. They will now give a story, a kind of story that will be relevant to the problem you are going through. So the dance is to also stabilize the emotion of the clients, the music and everything, so that the client will now have enough trust in the counselor, and in the process, the solution will be found to the problem that the client is going through. So storytelling, dance, music, and poetry are one of the tools that the African counselor would use in order to understand the problem of his or her client and also to offer solution to it. This particular image is to let us know what a Babalawo is, or how Babalawo approaches counseling in traditional African society, especially in Yoruba. This image you have, the man is looking at what is known as Ifa corpus. Ifa corpus is like the Bible of the Yoruba people. And for you to be a Babalawo, your character must be at the highest grade. In other words, there is something that is known as Iwa. Whatever you want to become, your character is the center of anything, any achievement. If you are to become a good counselor, a good Babalawo, your character must be very good. So everything in Yoruba is determined by the character you have. So if you are going through a particular problem, the Babalawo too would ask you, what about your Iwa? That is, what about your character? Tọ́jú ìwà rẹ, ọ̀rẹ́ mi. That is, take care of your character, because today may be good for you. What about tomorrow? Character is the center of everything, of the center of counseling in traditional Yoruba society. If you are barren and you are looking for children, they would also ask you, what about your Iwa? What about your...
Dr. Rotimi, you have 2 minutes more. So if you can kindly conclude.
Okay. So what I'm saying in essence is that philosophical counseling is something that is common in every philosophical tradition. If you go to the West, Chinese, India, what philosophers do, to me, in my own interpretation, is counseling, because they are teaching people on how to live a better life. And in traditional Yoruba society, this particular approach of philosopher was also very domiciled in traditional Yoruba society, to the essence that some people are professional counselors and they are versatile in Ifa couples, and they know the right verse of Ifa couples that they will use in order to appeal, in order to make their clients to understand their problems and how to navigate life thereafter. On that note, I want to say that philosophical counseling offers broad-based knowledge that can assist any individual to navigate life challenges better than psychological counseling, because any problem that somebody would have that would be philosophical is not a problem a scientist can provide solution to. Science deals with fact, while philosophy deals with the idea, the universal. The philosophy raises universal questions and they also offer universal solution. On that note, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for your attention, and I will be expecting any question thereafter. Thank you.